Welcome to another episode of the Ticklish. Hey, don't do that. The Ticklish Travel. Welcome to another episode of the Ticklish Traveler and his travel tales. Don't do that. Hello again, everybody. I just saw me a old George Hamilton movie, something on the beach in Florida. This kids are in spring break or something. Well, he's a rich, fancy guy, and it reminded me of people I went to high school with. They're in Fresno, California, so many years ago. They all had brand new cars and boats. They used to go up to Millerton Lake, which is, I don't know exactly, say 10 and 15 miles out of town. And there was a big lake there, and all the kids used to go to these certain beach areas. And it wasn't as bad as that spring break movie, but it was full of people from my high school. And I'd be riding that clunky old bike that I got for $8. I don't know, I might have got it from Tom, the good old guys around the corner. Anyway, I'm riding that clunky old bike so many miles, and it's hot in Fresno, and it's summer, and it's 103 degrees, and I'm riding, and of course, I forgot to bring water. I can't believe so many times I forgot to bring water. So they're going by, and they got their brand new Broncos and their $40,000 boats behind them, and all the good looking blonde girls and everything, and all these young guys like George Hamilton in this movie. They're rich and kind of snobby. So I'm just moving along like a turtle, going down that lonely road to Millerton, and there goes another. Hey, they're all yelling my name out. Oh, hey, sorry. So I was thirsty. I was real thirsty. And there was a little hamburger shack out in the weeds as they're coming down this big steep hill. And man, oh man, I needed a big chunk of water. And there was an old guy in there, and these real big eyebrows, and this heavy hair, and he was an old guy, and he was dark skinned. So right away, I Pade Vinspecious. This is a greeting in Armenian. Hey, kind of perked up. Hey, I didn't have a shirt on or shoes or nothing, and I was just coming back from Millerton. And man, this guy, Garabedian, he was Armenian. I don't know if he was born over there or not, but anyway, the Armenians all speak, most of them do anyway, speak fluent Armenian, and I like that. I love it. Okay, so I got along real well with this old guy, this old Garabedian guy. He lived down the road from where this little hamburger shack was, down this real steep road at Millerton Lake. And boy, not only he gave me water, but he gave me a big tall soda, and sit down and hamburgers, like the Greeks and Serbs and these ethnics. Right, man, I was full. I didn't want to eat too much because I still had a long track back to get back to my mom's house there in Fresno. So I used to go up there and visit this guy, and I went to see him one time, and he had just sawed his thumb off. So I had to help him build a chicken coop because the eagles were stealing all his chickens, or the hawks, or one of those big giant birds. And man, I had real good time with this guy. He lived right below the dam, and the city wanted to take his property because he had a bunch of old trucks and everything kind of lingering about. Those Armenians are not going to whip him. No way. He kept his land, and as all the kids, I could see them drive by with their brand new boats and their cars and everything, and I'd stop by and see old Garabedian on the way back and get juice, soda, that Lamorjune, and all that food, man, that good, healthy Armenian food. And I had a real good time with this old Armenian guy coming back from Millerton Lake. One time I was at Millerton, a little a little side story here. It was a real steep, and it was kind of a rocky going down this big steep hill, and it was hot, and the kids were around, and I was bumping. I went all the way down and landed in the water. I don't know if I did it on purpose or not, but I'm in the water, and I get up, and there's this guy, Brad, I think his name was, and all the girls liked him. He was like that Brad. He was like that Hamilton character in these movies. And he gives me a beer, and I poured it over my head a little bit, took a couple swigs, and I got up and started chucking the frisbee around with everybody. And I don't know, like an hour went by, and I sat with the girls here and the people over here, and I was chucking rocks and swimming, just, like a youngster does. Well, I forgot I left my bike in the water. They got a kick out of that. They were talking about that at Speedy's that night. Yeah, so I rode his bike down the hill and left the bike in there, and he was throwing frisbee and hitting birds, and oh man, it was so much fun. And I go back and see Garabedian there at his property, and then make my way back into Fresno. I used to have a lot of fun riding my bike out of town. It was an all-day deal, and I was in my teens, 20s, I guess. I don't know. No shoes, no shirt. I don't think I wore any shoes for 10 years. It was a long time. I used to just sit out in the parking lot, chuck the football and frisbee with everybody there at Speedy's, and ride up to the lake and go swimming at Bullard High, jump the fence with Tom and Bohigi and all these guys. But yeah, the Armenians, if you get to know an Armenian, they're going to be tough to work for, from what people say. They're the only ones that can beat the Jews. And I tell you, I'm all for them. They're good people, and they're going to feed you. Just make sure you do your work before you go out of the door, because, man, they're going to feed you full of all kinds of food, and then you don't want to do nothing afterwards like those old Greek ladies I'd helped. Okay, everybody, I just hope you enjoyed this. All right. Zito Ilos, everybody. If you want to know what it means, just ask an old Greek. Well, that's who I want to talk about, is the Greeks again. Just like old John Madden, the old Oakland Raider football coach, used to say, doggone it, he used to have play work, so I'm going to keep doing it until they stop it. Well, if I'm having fun somewhere in my travels, and this just happened to be Fresno, California, I just keep going back. It was a Greek church, and I went to services there. I'd help them out whenever they needed, to help them out the Greek festival. And then they had a Bible study there one night a week. And I used to go there, and man, I had a lot of fun with these kids. Father Jim Pappas, he's a real good-hearted guy. He knows the Bible and treats people with decency like you're supposed to. Well, he had these 3 little kids, and man, I used to have fun with them little guys. I'd show up, man, they'd attack me and grab my leg. All these other little guys, there's a dozen or so hanging on me. Oh, man, we had a blast. Then it got to the point where there's too many hanging on me. So I brought these little bouncy balls, and I'd throw those things all the way across the room, where we ate. Oh, the hall, I guess you call it. And then kids would chase after that little bouncy ball. And it got to the point where I was just bringing, maybe 10 bouncy balls with me, just throwing them, and the kids would chase after them, one after another. Man, oh man, we had so much fun. Well, these kids, these Greek priest kids, he had 3 little ones. They were real little, 2 girls and a boy. And I used to swing them around, then let them go, and they'd go sliding. And man, they were having a good old time, them little guys. And there was Eritrean kids there too, and I used to slide them. Man, oh man, we had so much fun. Well, I walked in one night at the Bible study. They're at the Greek church, and all the suits, they were sitting there, Skamunkas and Alfuris and all these doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs. Wait a minute, I don't know if Patronitz was there or not. Anyway, these guys are sitting around, these doctors and lawyers and architects, all these big shots in their suits. And I walk in late to the Bible study, and my shirt was ripped like Brando. And I says, somebody's kid's in there bleeding. The looks on their faces. Oh, mercy me, man alive. It was just a little bitty, like a dime, a little blood. Maybe it was my arm. Was I used to slide him. I don't worry, everybody's all right. And oh, so another night, man, did we have fun? It was some kind of a harvest, something on Halloween, and we all got in the wagons like Charlie Wooster, and we went around. The Greeks have a great big property, so the horses were going around the back, and I was looking at the little soccer ball that I brought a couple weeks earlier, and now it was flat and sitting against the fence. And me and those kids, we were having so much fun just riding around on that hay ride, and we were throwing stuff at one another. Those Eritrean kids, there's a country called Eritrea, and it's in Africa. And they are Orthodox like the Greeks, and we are the Serbs and the Ruskies. And they showed up over there, and I was sliding them across and throwing them around just like the Greek kids. And man, oh man, I had so much fun. One night, it was late October, and it was a real dark night. And I had a black football, and all these little kids were huddled around the back area, and I was throwing that ball to them, and little Yermani, I told him to go for a long pass, and it'd be like, I don't know, like any gas station, the back area of the Greek church. So I tossed that black ball into the dark black night, and all these kids standing around. Here come your money, little guy. Man, he had that ball in his hand. He made one of the great catches of all time, and it was like Doug Flutie. It just landed right in his hands, and he was running around. He was so happy, this little guy. Boy, oh boy, did I have fun over there at that Greek church. And you don't got to go all the way to Frankfurt. You don't got to go all the way to all these other places. I just went across town on my bicycle. And incidentally, when the Greeks found out I was riding, it took me almost 2 hours, slowpoke that I am and getting lost. It took me a long time to ride to the Greek church on my bicycle. And when they found out, they drove me. In fact, they used to fight to drive me to the Bible study. Those Greeks are good-hearted in Fresno, California, and I thank God that I got to go there and have some good times with these people. They're real decent, and if anybody gets a chance to meet some old Greeks, I would highly advise it because they're good people. And I hope everybody enjoyed this. Okay. Julia Childs, everybody. Now, there's a name from the past. That's right. I want to talk about food, and I want to talk about travel people. How many videos do I have to watch on the computer, TV, and the radio before one of you brings something? Slam Tibil. Shame on all of you. I've never seen anybody bring anything. It's just sickening. And these young kids I've met traveling around, I sure get tired of hearing about them. Oh, yeah, it was great. They went in this village and they let us stay with them and they fed us, they took care of us. What did you bring them? I shout out. And boy, they get embarrassed. There's long pauses. Well, we didn't bring anything. Why not? You guys went thousands of miles and spent thousands of dollars and didn't have any decency to bring them even a roll of lifesavers, any kind of like a big hunk, a candy bar. Oh, you didn't bring anything, it's gonna melt. Hey, lifesavers don't melt. Starburst, big hunks. You're gonna argue the fact that you shouldn't bring anything? Slam to be a shame on all of you. Well, as I usually do, I'm gonna throw some stories at you. I used to help this old guy in Fresno, California. It's Mr. Summers, and I really did like this old guy. I love this old guy. He was an old Okie from Oklahoma, And I used to sit underneath the shade tree in his backyard, and him and I would read the Biblia. And I'm sitting there looking, and there's an old flat soccer ball in the corner in the lawn that needs mowing, old broken bicycle. And I remember doing the yard work for him. And this guy had these real big hands, and he'd say, "Do you want to pop? Do you want to pop?" And he'd pull out a handful of coins, and he'd just drop them off on my hand, and I'd go down and get a whole bunch of soda pops from that quarter machine back then. And man, I had a good old time with Mr. Summers sitting in the backyard, and I used to bring him dried fruit, and we'd sit there and read the Bible, and man, we had a good old time. Well, I became friends with his son. He was around my age, and Mr. Summers was quite a bit older. So Rick, "Hey guy, we're gonna go out to Woodward Lake, guy." Rick was real impressed with the things that his dad and I were not impressed with, which was a friend of his who had $1 million home out in some Woodward Lake area. So we went to visit. Me and Rick Summers went to visit a friend of his, and it was a hot summer day in Fresno, California. Well, Rick goes to the door, and the fella came out, a friend of his, and he sat on one of those swing sets, and we talked on the porch for several minutes, and I was hot, and I didn't like the fact that this fella didn't have us come in. And I called him. I says, "Hey, man, this is a friend of yours. He didn't even invite us to come in, not even give us a Coke or a glass of water, and we've been out here several minutes. I'm sweating. I don't want to stay here anymore. I just don't like it. I brought a bag of chips for us to eat, and I'm telling you, man, I wish I wouldn't even brought that. This guy made me sick to my guts." So me and Rick took off, and I said to Rick, "I don't want to see this guy no more, as my family's not like that. We like to offer things to people." And I'm going to have a friend of mine explain that a little bit better than I can. His Serbian is a little bit better than mine.
In fact, there's a Serbian tradition of hospitality. And also in much of the rest of Yugoslavia, there's a Serbian saying, can I say in Serbian?
Sure.
Dobro došli, naši gosti. Vama meso, nama kosti. Which means, welcome our guests. You can eat the meat, we'll eat the bones.
Okay, you understand. We're going to give you guys a meat. We're going to eat the bones. Oh, cool, Betty. Man, oh, man. These cheap people. So one more cheapskate story. I was up in Canada, and I had got myself a room with this old crabby white woman. And she was right on the beach. "You can't use my kitchen." Rah. Okay, I understand. But I always show up with something anyway, so don't worry about nothing. So I showed up with 2 whole cooked chickens from the supermarket. And I bought a couple of jars of fruit. And I showed up at this lady's house. She had a beautiful home right there on the beach. Somewhere in Canada, I don't remember. So I showed up with these chickens and this fruit. And I laid it down on the table. I go, "You know what, ma'am?" I go, "You're welcome to eat a whole chicken. And you can have a jars of fruit. You can eat everything. I don't care." So she got a little bit embarrassed. She says, "Oh, I got some spaghetti." And her grandkids showed up, and we all ate spaghetti. Well, the next day, I took a walk on the beach. I met an older gentleman. He was the only one out there, and I was chucking rocks into the beach, into the ocean. So I ate dinner with this old guy, and I showed up. I had one of those jars of fruit with me because I wanted to get a little snack. So I gave the jars of fruit to this old guy, and me and him had a good chat. We just talked. We had a good old time. Nothing special. But this guy fed me on the beach in Canada. So when I came back, I still had them 2 chickens and 1 jar of fruit. Well, that old lady tore into me. "Yeah, you can't eat our spaghetti again." Yeah. Excuse me. I said, I put my hand up in the air. I go, "I got 2 whole chickens cooked in your refrigerator right now. You're welcome to eat both of them. I didn't eat any of them last night, and I ate with a guy down the road. So you can eat those, and you can eat the jar of fruit. Boy, she paused. She got embarrassed, and she says, "Oh, well, yeah, all right." Well, that night, after she did not give me any spaghetti, I ate one of my chickens, a jar of fruit. Later on, I maybe around 10 o'clock at night, I got hungry again. So I dumped her garbage when I got up to take a leak. And in that garbage can, you guessed it, she threw away a bunch of that spaghetti. Rather than share it with me, she just threw it away. I can't believe how cheap these people are. And again, the travel people included, all these young kids and all these travel experts on TV, nobody ever shows up with nothing. And it's just a shameful thing. Well, here's a story, Serbian. Cheto Kolak. He's a relative, a blood relative of my family. There was a Serbian doing in the backyard at our house. So Cheto shows up. And me and my aunt are looking out the window. We were laughing as he's getting out of this old beat up truck. You know, he's got these bow legs. He can hardly walk, and his arms are full. He's got all these olives and this prosciutto, this dried ham, and this homemade cheese and bread and all this big jars of dried tomatoes. So I went over there with a wheelbarrow. And I put this old, very old relative of ours who could hardly walk. His arms are so full. I put old Cheto Kolak in that wheelbarrow, and we come around the corner, and all the relatives are all back there drinking and laughing. Man, I come around there with Cheto in that wheelbarrow. Oh, man. Oh, man. Well, I just hope that you people show up, you know, with a little love in your heart and have something to bring these people when you go visit and stay with them. Not like this guy who had $1 million home and a $2 heart, and the old lady on the beach who had $1 million view and a $2 heart. That just don't get it. There's old Cheto Kolak in a $75 truck, and I was bringing him in this old 1800s wheelbarrow, and man, we had $1 million of fun that day when I turned the corner with this guy. Okay, everybody.
All right, go ahead, ignore me. You'll be pampering at me when the money starts rolling in.
I'm your huckleberry.
Oh, oh! All right,